Are you looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/bluewire and use code BLUEWIRE. That's code BLUEWIRE at prizepicks.com/bluewire for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for 1 bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Hello, my friends. This is Kirk Henderson leading another episode of Mavs Moneyball Group Therapy. You're joining me just before midnight on Saturday, October 30th. The Dallas Mavericks just fell in overtime to the Oklahoma City Thunder, 117-111. I sound like I've smoked 4 packs of Marlboro Reds. The Texas allergies and I are not getting along. It's only getting worse. If somebody would like to direct me to an allergist or somebody that can help me with this, because I am not getting better, and it's been almost a month of this. And I know no one wants to hear me talk, but good Lord, this isn't fun. Guys, I'm going to need you to carry me tonight, because I find myself very frustrated. I find myself very sad, because there's nothing I like more than the Dallas Mavericks winning. Being wrong about my takes is actually a singular joy. Being a negative shit benefits no one. Nobody listens to negative podcasts. People want to hear winning. They want to hear about the joys of winning. They don't want to hear suffer and languish and defeat. And unfortunately, these nights are really shitty. Sometimes we need to come together and sort of grieve frustrating losses, but this is not that. This is embarrassing. This is a lot of what I was prognosticating and kind of hoping against last season actually coming true to form. We've all read Jason Kidd's really shitty, really, really shitty, there's no other way to call it that, post-game blame deflection, which is he's just masterful at that. It's like he's avoiding a pole while driving. He just swerves out of the way. He played a massive role in this loss and probably doesn't want to pay doesn't want to give any sort of credit to that. He threw his second best player under the bus. His first best player, in Luka Doncic, played a truly tremendous game, tremendously bad game, I should say, down the stretch. His stat line looks fine, took 19 free throws, but basically let Lou Dort's physicality get the best of him and really did not play well. It's really awful. That's why this loss is. I labeled this room one of the worst losses of the Luka era. 19 free throws, Holden. It was really something. He wanted more. He probably deserved more. Lou Dort, the way the Ed Malloy and company were shit-tastic refs. It's really. We're not leading with that because it's not why the Mavericks lost. The Mavericks lost because they beat themselves, but the refereeing in this game was hysterically bad. Lou Dort just physically beat the shit out of Luka, threw him to the ground a couple of times, like real bad stuff. Dwight Powell's face, shout out to Dwight Powell's face, getting a lot of refs or getting a lot of elbows and such. So you guys know the rules. Rules. There are no rules. You guys know the drill. Come up on stage here, look for the ring around your name, listen to your name. Let's get your takes off, and then let's go to bed because we have to do this again in 18 hours because the Mavericks tip off at 6:30 local time tomorrow night. All right, coming up first is my guy, Brian, who is a Mavs Moneyball contributor and might be a little sauced.
What the actual fuck happened to this game, Kurt? Like what? Like you're telling me this team gave up a 27-4 run in the fourth quarter and lost this game in overtime?
Little prevent defense. Prevent offense is really what they ran, and then kid was doing the thing like he was. He's like I have the best seats in the house. I'm watching this run. I'm just not going to call a timeout. Not going to call a timeout until they're ahead by 8.
Kirk, and this has been the most frustrating thing about Kidd, and you've seen how I've felt about him not calling timeouts, right? And I know everybody hated Carlisle calling a timeout if a team went on a 6-0 run, right? But we have to find a median where Kidd is just sitting there where it's like, 16-0, no big deal. The team will get out of it. No, there is a point in time where you need to actually help your team out where if it's 12-0, you need to prevent the other team from continuing the run. Like, basketball is not that hard. Like, what are we doing, coach? And then I'm just gradually seeing these quotes from Kidd, and it's like, Jesus Christ. Like, and it's funny, Kirk, because we were told this team was really good. And I'm not really seeing this team really good. And by the way, do they have to travel to Orlando tomorrow?
No, this is the first game of a 5-game homestand.
Oh, thank God. Well, I mean, but still, you decided to rest McGee. But the good thing is we get McGee versus Bol tomorrow, so that will be utterly entertaining. I cannot wait for that moment to happen. And Bol just like crushes Jamal McGee until like a fine pulp. That'll be so fun. I will have to go back and watch the game. I want to shout out the staff for first off covering the game during this chaos, because I was watching and I saw the Mavs went up 15. And I was like, oh, okay, this is over. And I saw the world ending. Yes, the Mavs. And it was funny because I think me and you were the only ones to point out, like, this game at the end of the first quarter had vibes of the game from last year from Dallas and OKC, where I believe Dallas blew a big lead in Oklahoma City, forced overtime, and won in overtime. Did they not?
So I remember the Oklahoma City. So there's a December Oklahoma City game that they won. And I was there because that was the game where one of our Spotify Live followers actually took me to the game. It was incredible. And then they played on the road. It was very similar circumstances, Oklahoma City and Magic, and they lost those games. It was on the yeah.
Oh God, I just remember one of the losses Dallas had versus OKC in overtime was a Josh Giddey game, but this is absolutely unexcusable. This is unexcusable. I'm trying to obviously.
It's not Kid's fault. He's just got a great view. He's got blue light glasses on. His hands in his pockets. He can do nothing. He can do nothing to influence. After all, he didn't want Wood on the team apparently by how he behaved.
Oh, God.
See, he didn't have a role in that. I'm tired of it.
That's what I'm saying, Kirk. And this was one of our inside baseball type of stuff. I think there was people adamant about, hey, you have to watch this kid second year thing because there was this rapid reputation
thing. He forced his way out of Brooklyn. He had one good year in Milwaukee, and then he died on the vine in year 2 in Brooklyn. This is him. That there's no. I'm not ready to go there yet, but this is something, and he needs to be called to the carpet for it insofar as we can. Those quotes tonight sucked. They suck.
Yeah, those are worse than the oatmeal quotes. Those are worse than the oatmeal quotes. And you can bitch and moan about the refereeing, and I'm seeing that as a big. I'll watch the game tomorrow.
It was real. The refereeing was real bad.
Kurt, I know, but you were up 15 in the fourth quarter. You cannot let that happen.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Some of that comes back to team defense. And the team defense was atrocious. It really was.
Well, Kurt, whose fault is that? Is that on the team or is that on Kidd?
It's on everybody. It really is.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But if Kidd is defined on defense, is he not? Like, is he made this team defensive first, right? So again, if he's oriented on defense, at the end of the day, whether he wants to blame this on oatmeal, instant pizza, whatever the hell, this is his baby. And now I know he's got Sweeney helping him out on the defensive front formats, whatever, but this is what he wants to be known as. And when you give up a 27-4 run in the fourth quarter and you're trying to say you are a defensive minded team first, you cannot absolutely not do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know Shea is good. Like Shay's
outstanding. Shea is the guy who I think, like, I'm just going to get this off my chest because there's a earlier debate in the summer. Would you give up 2 draft picks for Shea Gilgeous-Alexander? I would.
Yes.
He and Luka driving 7,000 times a game and forcing stuff. Like, the NBA is ruled by backcourts and wings, and they would be monstrous. But that's neither here nor there.
If this was like if this was 20 years ago, he would be MVP of this league right now. Like, what are we talking about? He is a top 10, top 11 player, like, in this league. Like, that is absurd that people wouldn't even consider that.
No, I mean, I get why, because it's like you see him at the Thunder, but that's different.
Well,
but what else you got, buddy?
Yeah, just the fact that, again, the Thunder are still very short-handed. They are not full. Like, this is not a fully staffed Thunder team either.
Right. And
Luka by himself should be able to crush the Thunder until a fine pulp by himself. And yet somehow Kid finagled this. Like, I know.
But yeah.
Well, I'm speaking just in terms, like, really at the end of the day, like, everybody has to take responsibility, right? But like, how did this team not crush this team into a fine pulp? How? Like, and then what the quotes coming out of tomorrow are going to be hysterical. I'm going to go ahead and drop off, buddy, because I'll have more thoughtful intake tomorrow. But I told you specifically I was going to stop what I was doing, get home, and speak to you about this game and how, like, the chaos I've seen from you and Josh. But I appreciate everything that you do, the staff does, and thank you for everybody for tuning in for the Green Rooms.
All right, be good, buddy. Talk soon. All right, coming up next, we have Boots on the Ground reporter and also star actor of The Bear, Tim Cato. What's happening, buddy?
Hey, what's up?
Everybody's a little saucy. I'm real saucy. I'm sick. Well, no, I'm not sick. I just, like, Texas allergies have made my voice sound like this. So I apologize.
Nothing much, man. I think you nailed it with your little opening monologue, that it just felt like the all the flaws that we considered possible for this season were just kind of, all, flashing red flags after this game. Which is not to say that I think that's actually where the season is going to go, or that I have lost all optimism of this team. But yeah, you had the team struggling when Luka was struggling. You had him, struggling with his 3-point shot. So, his shooting just in general. I mean, I guess he's making free throws now, but he's been MVP level for the first few games. But if he's going to take this level of, if Luka is going to be driving this much and take this level of beating, we've seen how that affects them over the course of a season, and how, they're going to get to, the postseason, and he's going to be banged up and tired. We saw the Spencer Dinwiddie doesn't look great as the only point guard on the court. And then, I think most meaningfully is the Christian Wood stuff. And, I was always thought it made sense for him to kind of earn his way into the starting lineup. But that kind of implied that, the team was playing well, and that, there was a reason to keep him off the bench, and there was a reason to keep JaVale in there. And to go to Dwight Powell this quickly, JaVale McGee wasn't even on the team's bench for like the first half of the first quarter. I'm not sure exactly what was up with that. He did come out there after a little bit, but that was just something I noted and was like, that's interesting. And now for Jason Kidd to be calling him out, calling Christian Wood out, like him, taking the first 10 games to potentially earn his way into the starting lineup, made sense if, there wasn't this starting 5 games in where, everybody thinks he should be starting. Even I'm kind of thinking he should be starting, even though I'm theoretically fine with him coming off the bench. And now if this situation is already going to sour, I didn't think it would happen, so quickly. I didn't think it would happen so publicly. And here we are.
I want to ask you a question, and please, by all means, simply say I don't want to answer this. What is going on with the fact that Kidd sort of does this thing where he acts like he doesn't have agency with what happens with the free agency element? Because he has behaved since day one from his quotes like Christian Wood was something that he was not entirely bought in on. And again, you cannot answer that question. I'm not going to ask you to. But what I don't understand is there's got to be some sort of commitment to the bit, because all JaVale McGee has to do is play hard. And I have a really sneaking suspicion that a big part of why he was not in the lineup at all tonight, why he was not playing, is because there was a conversation that was had where it was like, Bub, you got to do something, because he's done nothing. He's not been awful, but he's also been a non-contributing zero. And there's elements of this where all you have to do when you have a Luka Doncic-centered team is play hard. And Dwight Powell showed that for a significant portion of tonight. He wasn't great. He got murdered. I feel bad for his poor face. But there's elements of this where it's just like, why is it so difficult for I mean, I'm rambling at this point.
It's a good question. It's a good question. I think the questions you're asking is right. I mean, I don't think I have great answers to it per se, but yeah, I mean, they made a big deal about sending out the Nico press release before they sent out the Jason Kidd press release. But Jason Kidd was hired first, or he was decided on first, and Nico was hired as a GM who could work with.
This is a deal. I'm not, it's a package
exactly.
Deal.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
fine.
I'm by no means saying that Jason Kidd is the one making the decisions per se, but the idea that this, Jason Kidd as the head coach and Nico Harrison as the GM are working in tandem with that they're synced up in the decisions they're making. Very, very, very clearly they are. And so yeah, there's, as much as Kidd has or hasn't, acted like, the roster construction is completely out of control. I would actually be interested at another point when we have more time to kind of hear where you feel you've seen him say that, because I haven't seen it quite as much, but clearly things, yeah, but yeah, no, clearly there is no, okay.
Somebody just sent me this in a text. I miss the days where Rick Carlisle would take responsibility for a loss.
Yeah.
Jason Kidd does not do that.
That is correct. Certainly have not seen that, or him do that. Yeah, man, it's it does feel a little bit more like I kept bringing up how, maybe Jason Kidd wanted this team to look a little bit more like the championship Lakers that he was assistant coach on. And certainly, I think he wanted this team to have, more flexibility in the ways that they could play. But already we haven't seen flexibility in the way the team has played. They're just playing Luka ball, but they're doing it with one less point guard, and they're doing it with, a center who's supposed to be better than Dwight Powell, who hasn't been.
It's early.
Yeah.
So Josh Bowe and I talked about this, and you actually said this because one of the reasons I love talking hoop with you is because you bring an element of dispassion early in the season that is needed, because again, it's game 5. And you said this to me a couple days ago when we talked, where it's just like, we can't overread into stuff. And Josh said this to me too, where he's like, in all likelihood, by game 40, we're not going to remember game 5. But I will say they did put special emphasis on starting the season well, and they've just not started the season very well. They've not started it poorly, because they could be 1-4. They could also be 5-0. And so that's where this becomes so challenging, because I don't know how to feel about this team, because the Thunder came out and roughed them up, and they did not respond in a way that would have ever made sense. I mean, if there was ever a night for Coach Jason Kidd to get a technical foul, it was tonight. I think Luka does some flopping and some whining that drives me crazy. There was a foul in the fourth quarter. It was like a short corner foul where Luka hit a shot, and Lou Dort physically hurt, made sure so that Luka was on the ground, and there's just no call. There's got to be some protection of the star player going on. And that's one thing, if I were to actually have a non-fan whiny criticism, that I hope that they look at some point and say, We need some passion from you, coach. Like, do you remember Steve Nash losing his mind two games ago from Kevin O'Connor made fun of it because it was like Nash looked like he was about to murder someone.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think Kidd needs to be doing that, but it would just bring me a sense of relief that he has the teams back on the floor. And I've just never felt that. He got ejected for Spencer Dinwiddie last year. Could we please do something for Luka? I don't know. Maybe I'm totally off key here.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I don't have a good read on that, or I don't have anything interesting to say.
No, it's just too early in the year.
But here's what I will say. Here's what I will say, and then I'm going to get out of here. Y'all comment. Will you read a Sunday piece if I write something tonight? Because this does feel kind of noticeable.
We desperate. Me and Josh Bowe, we've talked. We're like, well, I wonder what Tim's going to say about this. That's a discussion.
So I do think what stands out to me is it's not the wins and losses. It's that the stylistic choices the team made over the offseason, that they would be okay with one ball handler lineups, and that they did want to play bigger and have a quote unquote rim protecting, just bigger center to start games, in that he would start games and that Christian Wood would not start games, that Christian Wood would come off the bench. These are the big decisions that were made in the offseason. And so through 5 games, I, obviously care a little bit about how those 5 games have gone. But I think more what's standing out to me more is that through 5 games, it does not seem whatsoever that they make the right decisions about where to take this team after a conference finals run over the offseason. It seems like the decisions they made and that the directions they wanted to take this roster through 5 games, it doesn't look like it's trending in the right direction. And 5 games is 5 games, and maybe that changes. But right now, it very clearly looks like they're struggling. That they made steps. Yeah. Everything that made them so good last season, that they didn't fully understand it. And that they kind of unraveled some of the stuff that made them the team that went to the conference finals last year. And, I'm not even saying I had the foresight, I would have re-signed Jalen Brunson. Yeah, I had a lot of, questions and concerns about the lack of a third ball handler. Or as somebody tweeted at me, the lack of a second ball handler, you could argue, because, really Spencer Dinwiddie looks like he should be a secondary playmaker, not ever a lead point guard. I had concerns about all that stuff, but I thought it might work. I really thought it might work. And through 5 games, it does not look like it's working. It looks like it's making this team worse. And, those are huge issues that will continue. If these trends continue in this way, that this is going to be a big problem this season. And so to me, that's what this loss stands out as, just a concerning potential glimpse into the difficulties this season is going to have, based off decisions the Mavs of their own agency decided to make about this roster over the summer.
Well, Tim, you're so kind to spend part of your evening with us. And the answer to the question is, do all of us subscribe to The Athletic? The answer is yes. We want to read you. So if you do choose to write, we will read it. If you don't, because the Mavericks play in like 14 hours, I don't blame you, and you can write it. We have 2 games. The Mavericks have 2 games next week, Wednesday, Friday. So
yeah, I mean, I have to go listen to this. Whatever Jason, I saw all the quotes about Jason Kidd, but I was talking to Ed Malloy at the time because I was on the pool reporting duty, so I had to ask him about that. Yeah, very nice guy, but I asked him. It took like 1 minute to do that, but I got to go listen to these Jason Kidd comments to see exactly how many times he brought up Christian Wood unprompted. So I'm going to go do that, and you enjoy the rest of your live room and find an allergist, dude. Please.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm so bad. We'll talk soon. Yeah. Thanks so much. Yeah. Tim's not wrong. Like, it took me, I've been to the doctor 3 times, and finally someone's like, how long have you lived here? And I was like, well, about a year. Again, I lived here, 20 years ago. And it was like, oh, well, it's your allergies. I'm like, my what now? I've never had allergy problems. Okay. Lots of folks to come through. Cannot wait. One of them is my man, Lyndon, who I'm going to wait for a while, and he's going to talk about Luka being ISO heavy. Cannot wait for that. But coming up next is Chad. What's up, Chad? Hit that unmute button for us there at the bottom. Come out of the chat and tell us the truth.
Sorry about that. But yeah.
That's all right.
No, there's a few things. I don't want to rile you up, Kirk, but
I'm already riled up. Are you fucking kidding me? Look at this.
Let's start at the top. I'm sorry, Mark Cuban, why don't we have Jalen Brunson on this team? That's one thing. Let's move on from there. Also, Luka Doncic. After a while, you have to understand you're not getting the calls tonight. They're going to knock you around. They're going to hit you. You're like what 6'8", 250. Put your body into somebody. Like you got to finish sometimes. You can't lay on the floor and wait for the call. It's not going to work tonight. Moving on from that, Jason Kidd. My God, what are you doing? Like, I'm sorry. You can't say like, oh, he was out here and it didn't go that well because no, like you changed the lineups. We had a significant lead and we lost the lead, and then you did not put the guy in the fourth quarter. I mean, in the overtime, you can't throw him under the bus. It's sometimes you have to manage people as a people manager. Like that's your job is to understand like, this might not be a fair thing for me to say. This might be an inflammatory thing for me to say after the game in which I was sitting down and just like holding my hand over my face the entire game while my guys were getting knocked around. It's not a sustainable model in my opinion. Also, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This is fantastic. Keep cooking.
And like you see, Josh Green is out there. He's a young guy who's building up his confidence. He's playing an excellent game, and you just take him out, and he just doesn't see the floor for any significant time. Like, what are we doing?
Yes.
Like, do we want this guy to develop, or do we not want this guy to develop? Do we trust this guy, or do we not trust this guy?
This is the first thing I got to comment on. Here's the thing: when they play so soon again, why would you not let the young legs run themselves out while Luka gets some rest?
Like it only makes sense. You can, I mean, when you're up 15, and maybe this is just me, I think throw a Jaden Hardy out there. Throw a guy out there who really, really, really wants it, who's not going to be tired, who doesn't feel like, all right, we've been through a million regular season games. Throw somebody out there who's just going to put as much effort as possible out there, which leads me to Christian Wood. He wants to play for this team. You could tell he wants to fit in. You could tell he wants this to work. And I don't understand the tactic that they've taken with this guy thus far. I understand he has a reputation around the league. I understand people were skeptical of him, being able to be a contributor on a winning team and being able to buy into a team role. But I've seen nothing so far that says he wouldn't. So I don't know why he's on like the front burner of the people to kind of, I don't know, throw under the bus here. It's just, I'm not understanding like the strategy or the tactics right now, and it's frustrating because it feels like we're losing very, very winnable games just off of energy and effort, and we have people at the end of the bench who can score, who can give us energy and effort, and if they blow their defensive assignments, then take them out the game. But if the game is like, if we're well in the lead, put them in there and because they're not going to relax. Jaden Hardy is not going to relax this season. No, there's no point during this season in which he's going to be on the NBA floor and decide he's not going to give, everything he can give, because he's a rookie who fell all the way to the second round, who feels like he should be like probably the number one pick in the league. So let him run that out. Let him see what his limitations are. Let him see what he can do, and then you can coach him from there. I don't know what they're doing in practice, so I don't want to speak towards that, but it just feels like there's like, I don't understand maybe it's an ego thing, but like there's no point to be made here. We need to win games. And I understand it's early in the season, but once we get to the end of the season and these seedings are separated by 2, 3, 4 games, maybe we're going to be very upset about dropping very winnable early games because there was, I don't know, a point to prove or rotations to figure out when, you have to let the game dictate the rotation sometimes. And I understand that Jason Kidd mapped out every rotation for all of the season, and that's very diligent, but you have to be able to adapt, and this was a frustrating loss. And last but not least, I got to go to Luka Doncic in that, my guy, you're like 6'8", 250. You can't keep hitting the floor. You can't keep looking for calls. Sometimes you got to make it, people understand, like, you can't keep on hitting me. Like, you have to put your body in the guys and finish through contact, and so that people know that they just can't get physical and knock you off your game. And Lou Dort is a great defender, but you got to finish with that. You can't let SGA outplay you. You just can't. You're better than SGA. Your team is better than SGA's. You have higher expectations. You're supposed to be MVP. You got to get 2 feet into the paint and like score and not settle for jumpers and fadeaways and frankly soft plays at the end of the game, because it's on you. You got to put this in.
We like us some SGA around these parts though. That dude's tough.
He is. He's really, 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 really good. He's going to be a future All-Star. He's probably going to be future All-NBA. I'm not sure if he's going to be a future MVP. And so you have to, as a future MVP, you have to outplay him. Like this is the season. This is what's that season when the Cavaliers ended up playing the Spurs in the finals? 2007. This is your 2007 LeBron year. And I understand that the league is much, much tougher than it was in 2007, so you probably won't make it to the finals. However, this is the year to prove, like, no, I am the floor. Like, the floor is 50 wins, and I am the floor. And you can't keep dropping games like this if that's the case. And that's what we've given Luka every, and he deserved every acknowledgement short of being LeBron James athletically. And he's proven it up to this point, and so I'm sure he's going to prove it through the rest of the season. But nights like this, just you can't keep doing this, because that's not what's expected.
Luka's plus minus tells the story. He's a negative 24. It was rough.
Yeah, it was a bad game. And I was just thinking through how, no matter what, Luka doesn't have games where he just doesn't come through. And this was the first one where I felt like, even though he got his stats, don't get me wrong, he got his triple-double, he didn't force his will at the end of the game.
I think he was trying, but I think Evan Malloy played a part in that. But that's also where I come back to Kidd calling a timeout at some point and saying, let's run some offense.
Something, anything.
Like an ISO for somebody else, some sort of hot, like they had Christian Wood and him in there, and I want to say it was Jeremy in the chat who pointed this out earlier. They ran no pick and rolls with Luka and Christian Wood. That is the fucking cheat code. Run it.
Run it. There's no reason not to. There's no reason not to. And so this was a bad game for us, I feel like. Hopefully they come out stronger tomorrow, but it's going to be the second night of a back-to-back.
Paolo Banchero is a man. He's going to eat our front court up. It is going to be and that's like Dorian Finney-Smith probably going to have to guard him, which isn't fair.
It's not fair at all. He's not big enough. No. And they also have to understand, like, they're not sneaking up on anybody this year. People are going to stay on the shooters.
Right.
And they're going to, like, really lock in whenever the Mavericks come into town. So there's no easy nights this season. And that's tough. It's rough because the league is at parity, but there's something you have to accept. We can't keep losing. You
cannot.
You're too good to. You're too good to. So I'm gonna go ahead and hop off because I know there are a lot of people waiting to talk, but this was a frustrating loss.
Thanks for carrying tonight. Appreciate you. Talk soon.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
That's what I mean. Even though some of y'all don't disagree, it's okay. He was carrying me because I can't talk. Now, Lyndon, I just teased you earlier, but I want you up here. What's up?
Hey, what's up, Kirk?
How you doing?
It's funny. I'm not even that emotional because I'm a Liverpool fan in the Premier League, so my heart is broken. Liverpool's already broken me.
I'm sorry, man.
The Mavs, tonight wasn't like anything you haven't seen before. But the interesting thing is, I expect oftentimes, for Luka to not have a lot. Luka, if he doesn't respect your team, he's just not gonna play to his full ability. That's his thing. If he doesn't respect you, he can't fake respect you. but it seems as though Jason Kidd didn't respect the Thunder either, which is strange. Like, if Jason Kidd respected the Thunder, Jaden Hardy would have not seen the floor tonight. Like, he's like, all right, this team stinks. Let's kind of work guys in. Let's kind of chill. And I feel like, Jaden Hardy should have maybe played at the end when we're up 20. And it's funny. I feel like a lot of the Luka stuff that I have to say, they're broken records. I don't need to address them. I have a lot of Kidd things that are very, very strange. The Christian Wood stuff seems almost personal, and I don't like that because it's like from the book that Jason Kidd, when he gets on you, he gets real mean and vindictive and gross when he doesn't like you.
It was
like what he did with the Bucks.
It was in that
the Mirren Fair book.
No one wanted to believe it. It's like he's not that guy.
No, I don't. What's being done to Christian Wood seems unfair. It's gross what's being done to Christian Wood. He's not perfect, but Jason Kidd is like ODing. Like these heavy criticisms. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
I mean, I have a lot of insane takes that I simply cannot go towards quite yet. But I will say that early last year when this guy was brought on as coach, Josh and I had a lot of thoughts, and we had to walk them all back because last year was a good year, a well-coached year. I thought they squeezed blood from a stone, but Tim Cato was up here a few minutes ago. You heard him. One of the things I think and this is something I just don't understand, is that they got to the Western Conference Finals and they came away from it sounding like real hoopers where it's like, well, we got to rebound more. That's why we lost. Well, that's why you lost in the Western Conference Finals. But you got to the Western Conference Finals by winning the math game, by screwing offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds, really, and getting the most out of three-point shooting. That's okay. That's how you won. So if you want to play a different way, that's fine. But we at least have to acknowledge what got the team to the Western Conference Finals to begin with. It was extremely heavy ISO ball, and led by, it wasn't just Luka. It was like a three-headed monster that worked out really well. And instead, they've just gone a completely different direction since then. And there's just sort of, it's only 5 games. That's one of the things I tell myself after, now that I've got all the piss and vinegar out of my system. But that's a terrible loss. This is a loss that's going to stick with all of us for a long time. My phone is blowing up. My group chats on Twitter everybody's through the roof. Everyone is mad. This is a collective, the fan base is like, what the fuck just happened? And if they come out and play a bad game tomorrow night, it's only going to get worse because I think we all kind of agree that regardless of why they lost, this was not there's simply not good enough justification for why they lost.
Yeah. Another thing that I observed, and I think every SGA shot, I feel like David Stern is rolling in his grave because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is one of the league's most bright young stars, and I would love somebody to go look up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander games played over the last 2 seasons. You'd think he's Anthony Davis. Shai is playing 50 and 35 games because as wonderful as he looks right now, Presti's just going to essentially just say he died of a heart attack after the All-Star game and he's never going to play again, just like he did last year. And that's just such a travesty for the league. Another point about the actual game that really kind of stuck with me is that without Brunson, man, and I saw Josh Boy talk about it, this roster is limited. It's limited.
It's so specific. It's like they have some very talented guys, but it's like when you go through skill sets, who can dribble?
And for me, I love ball movement. That if it's so limited, maybe Kid would be like, okay, let's have some sets to kind of maximize maybe because these guys can all make layups. And it's like, how often does the offense create layups for people other than Luka? And it's like, it just doesn't happen. And that's where like Jason Kidd comes in. Like I remember the Raptors championship team, they played two different styles. They played the style when Kawhi was playing games, and they played the style without him. The style without him was about ball movement, attacking the rim. When Kawhi came, it was ISO and playing off of him. And I feel like instead, what they do is when Luka comes out, they just bring someone in to then replace his piece on the chessboard. And it's like you can't replace the queen. No, it doesn't work that way, you know. Yeah, I don't really have a real emotional response to the game. It's a bad game. It's a bad loss, but it's so early in the season. And if you see things like what's going on in Brooklyn, the Warriors are 3-3, the Lakers are 0-5, the Sixers look bad.
God,
things are going to shape out properly, you know.
I'm so glad you said this. I'm so glad you said this. Do you know how much fun it is to be mad about a basketball team over this shit?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Mm-hmm. Like,
mm-hmm.
I'm not going to just, guys, if you don't know what I'm talking about, be glad. Because Brooklyn sounds like the worst of all possible workplaces. So uncomfortable. My mentions, I said one thing. In my mentions, I have some guys being like Kyrie Irving, working class hero. And I'm just like, guys, I can't right now. I can't. I'm too
Listen,
bad, Jason Kidd.
Kirk, I'm from, I grew up in New York, right? And I don't know if you've been to New York, but when you're in Manhattan, or if you like go to Harlem, there's some guys that are like called the Black Israelites, right?
Yep.
And then these black dudes who think like the black man is God and all kind of weird stuff. And when you're walking by, they're like scream these different things about the white man and the black man and, you know, weird stuff. And I really do believe like one of those Black Israelites got in Kyrie's ear, man. Kyrie be saying the stuff that they say on the train in Manhattan that I used to hear.
Kyrie
I'm like, Kyrie is hilarious. He's hilarious.
But like, look, we all make mistakes, and all of us have dabbled into things where it's like later you're like, why did that happen? Kyrie Irving is a guy who falls asleep to YouTube every night, and that just is that's all I'm gonna say. Like you go to bed and you're listening to like ASMR videos of somebody telling you a nice story. You wake up at 2:30 in the morning and you're hearing how like jet fuel burned the third tower. Like there's like YouTube's algorithm fucking sucks, man.
You make me cry. Right? Thank you so much. That's so funny.
All right, bye. All right, coming up next, let's fly here. We got Nav, who's been waiting for a long time. I'm sorry, man. I had to get to a couple of folks.
I'm doing all right, no problem. You can hear me all right?
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay. So this game was a real bummer. All the concerns about the team were on display. I guess my biggest problem is it doesn't seem like everyone on the team is on the same page, like coaching staff and players.
Yep.
And yeah, and we were fans, and I know you were saying it, other people were saying it before the season about Christian Wood, and we were told we're like overreacting or overrating Christian Wood. And it's very frustrating to actually see, like, I don't want to be right about this, right? Like I want the team to do well, but when you lose Brunson, right, and then you have a new guy who is an offensive player, I don't understand the resistance to actually playing the second best player. And it seems like JaVale McGee is just like the teacher's pet. And he was just destined for some reason, I guess maybe the Laker connection, but it's extremely frustrating. It doesn't seem like the team and Kidd have given Christian Wood like an honest chance to succeed. And they keep talking about defense, and, you know, we keep talking about rotations and closing lineups and this and that. Like, you got to give your two best players a chance to develop chemistry. Like, there was a play in the first quarter where Luka was trying to ISO like on the right side, like he was trying to back down and post up, and Christian Wood was coming over to set a screen. Luka had to wave him off. It's like they still haven't played that much time together to really get the feel for one another. And like with the defense thing, I don't, it's like Luka's not a great defender, right? He's gotten better, but he's not known as a great defender. Jalen Brunson was in the starting lineup. He wasn't a great defender. Like, it's okay to have somebody who's not the best defender in the world be your starting center when he's that good on offense and creates such a mismatch on the offensive end, right? With Luka popping out for three. And it's like, if you're that mad about him or you're trying to emphasize defense or you want him to earn it or all that stuff, I don't understand why they don't just not play him to close the game, right? Start him, try and run up the score as much as possible. And then if you don't trust him down the stretch, then our conversations will be more about like, oh, why isn't he closing the game as opposed to why is he not starting the game? Because I don't think him and Luka are on, they've gotten, they haven't gotten a good enough rhythm or sync yet, just because their minutes keep getting staggered. And it's just really disappointing to hear all the stuff about coming out of the press conference with Jason Kidd. You guys touched on it. He's not taking any responsibility. He even, I saw something about him talking about how no one asked the question, but he was going to address it anyway with Seawood out there with the closing group, and it didn't go well on either end. And it seemed like that was a direct shot at everybody who was talking about Christian Wood in the closing lineups. I just don't understand. You lost Brunson, that's fine, but you have this new guy who's your second best player, who's in a contract year, and it doesn't seem like anyone on the team is really trying to accommodate him. And he, at least from what I've seen from the outside, all his quotes seem to be good. He seems to be happy. He seems to be want to be here. He's trying his best, and he just doesn't seem to get anything from the team and in the lineup. It's just really disappointing to see how everything, played out tonight. It was very disappointing loss, excuse me.
Well, it was disappointing as a loss, external from everything else. And those of us who are eternally online have since read all the post-game stuff. And that makes everything feel worse.
Yeah.
Because Luka Doncic gives the rather standard where, Luka's very hard on himself in post-game stuff. And most of the time it resonates well because it's basic, for lack of a better term, leadership 101. I don't know about you, but I've worked in jobs where managers above me refuse to take any fucking responsibility for anything. And those people always suck. It's the person who takes it on the chin, even though it's not their fault, is the person who you want to follow. So when Kidd does this sort of thing, and he's done it always everywhere, it's really maddening. And so that has made this worse, because if he went out there tonight and had nothing to say other than the fact that we got to get back out there in 18 hours and play basketball, I think this locker room, sorry, Spotify Live, we would have been done by now. But all this stuff feels worse because it's it's a double down on, well, you're the problem. Essentially, meaning it's everyone else's fault, where it's come on, it's a team thing. Kidd made mistakes. Luka made mistakes. McGee made a mistake by signing here. You could just go down the line.
You're absolutely right. You're right. The loss itself was bad, but you're right. All the quotes afterward, because it doesn't seem to have any optimism or hope moving forward. I feel like this was the perfect game to have a guy like Christian Wood, where you're hey, Lou Dort is beating the crap out of Luka. Refs aren't calling it, right? Luka, you don't have to put on your Superman cape tonight. Christian Wood, just eat up in the post, no problem. Take us home. Yeah. And it's just been very frustrating. Josh Green was playing really well. Dwight Powell showed a lot of energy. This was a perfect matchup with Dwight Powell. There was no lumbering center, giant guy who could just outmuscle him. There was so much good that was coming out of this game. And then just the way it ended, and then with all the quotes, it was really disappointing and really frustrating. And I'll end with that just to let somebody else come up and talk.
Thanks for waiting and talking again tonight. We appreciate you. Yeah. All right, Matthew, you've been waiting. You went to the game. You were sitting 3-4 rows behind Mark Cuban. What did you?
I did not yell at him a ton. I was too busy yelling at Ed Malloy. But the biggest thing for me tonight is it's weird for me to say this because of how much I griped about the refs. But I pointed this out in the stats post. I mean, Luka shot 19 free throws. The team shot 34. there's an old adage in basketball that if you foul on every play, they're not going to call all of them. Like at some point, you have to adjust to the way the game's being played, and they didn't do that tonight. And for Dallas, it very rarely happens, but they're always going to be in trouble when Luka's not the best player on the floor, which he wasn't tonight. And that's not, I mean, obviously I still love Luka. I still think he's one of the best offensive engines in the history of basketball. He did not have a good game tonight. Like, I know what his stat line was. I understand that. I watched it. And I also watched the Mavericks be up by 16 points when he came in with 5 minutes and 40 seconds left, and him go back to his wrestling match with Lou Dort and suck the life out of everything. And it's a bad game. It happens. Everybody has them. I wanted to get a couple of things in. One, you got to love Dwight Powell. Like, nobody is more aware of his limitations than I am, and I've pointed them out on many occasions as a commenter and then in writing. But that guy, it's easy for us to think, hey, you should stay aggressive and do all this and ready to play and all of that stuff. But that guy has been a did not play coach's decision, I think, in 2 of the games before this, but he's played like 8 minutes this year. And then, hey, I want you to come in and play. And he played absolutely as hard as he does every other time, set the right screen. He's just provided basketball competence. And there's something to be said for that, just for the effort, and it's contagious. And so, like, I for one, am happy, and I enjoy it. And then the other thing I was going to say, as far as the Mavs roster construction, the problem they have is that they did it in back-to-back off seasons, but they chose to let the wrong guard go and keep the wrong guard. If you have Jalen Brunson instead of Tim Hardaway Jr., this is an NBA title level roster. Like, the problem is Tim can't create offense. Like, I understand that that's part of what they want him to do, and I get what they want going on is they want the other big guards around Luka, but he doesn't create offense for others. And if you look at the roster, the way it's constructed, if you have Brunson, if you just take Brunson and put him in Hardaway's spot, or if you could get another creating guard, then you have the 3 guards in Luka, Dinwiddie, and Brunson, or the other one. And then you have 3 wings in Bullock, DFS, and Josh Green. And then you have 3 bigs in Maxey, Powell, and Wood. And then you have McGee in emergency situations when you need a really big body, which is how they needed to play him instead of the guaranteed starter role. And if you do that roster makes a ton of sense. Like, it does everything. Like, there's a matchup for everything. And as it is now, they have limitations, and it's because they made a mistake. Which the last thing I'm going to say about that is, do you remember the movie Without Limits with about Steve Prefontaine?
Yes.
Okay, so I like to equate things to movies. This is what I'm going to say about the Mavs and their roster building philosophy. In that movie, Steve Prefontaine is just a lot better than everybody else. There's a scene where they're getting ready to go to nationals when he's in college, and he is enjoying himself with the Pink Ranger, and he cuts his foot really, really bad right before he has to run. Now, he goes out and runs anyway, and he still wins, and because of his insane talent and how amazingly good he was. But he made it so much harder by fucking up. And so because of that just reminds me so much of the Mavericks roster building, in that because Luka is so good, they can overcome a lot of the stuff that they screw up, but they just keep shooting themselves in the foot.
Oh,
so
I love it.
That reminded me of, and that's really all I got, man. And I'm about to finish the incredibly annoying long drive home after a game like this.
Well, drive safe, man. We'll talk soon.
All right, bud.
All right. Matthew has to go back to rural Texas. All right, let's fly through some folks because I'm tired. Harris, let's see if it works for you tonight. How you doing?
Hey, Kirk. How are you?
There we go.
I don't know. I just saw the Jason Kidd comments that everyone's talking about, but I was at the game. It didn't I get those comments if it was like a real bad mistake from Wood, but I don't see how this loss was on him at all. I didn't see him fuck up that much, and he was part of the bench unit that got us the huge lead. We started losing when Luka came in, so I don't really understand his comments.
You and me both, man. It was brutal. It doesn't. It's like he was out to prove a point and then didn't expect them.
Yeah, I just he's called out Luka decently enough when Luka's played badly or if he's yelled at refs, but I really just don't understand where Jason Kidd is coming from at all. That's all I really have to say.
Neither do I. Thanks for coming up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go to who we got. Jason, what's up?
My audio is working, right?
There we go.
There we go. I almost understand what Kid is saying because I think Wood was honestly a disaster if he got a last foul. He just was not involved in the offense at all. Some of that is Luka just waving him off. Some of that just coaching not getting him involved. But the defense was really, really bad down the stretch. And I mean, that's also Luka being bad on defense down the stretch. But I get it from Luka because if Luka goes out, at least theoretically, the offense would come. So, but oh my God, Kid. It's one bad game. I put it like this. I'm actually fine with it. It's one bad game. It'll be fine. They're going to beat up the Magic. I think this team is always good about, okay, they get beat one night, they'll go back and pummel the team. The other night, they really lose 2 in a row. I don't know if they lost 3 in a row all last year. Maybe they did, but it was like maybe once at all last year. This team is always good at getting off after a bad loss. So they're going to be fine tomorrow, I think. And it's the Magic. It's not like yes, the Magic are better than they were, but it's still the Magic.
The Magic have a lot of injuries.
They have injuries. They have other things. So, I don't know. Everyone just get a good night's sleep. Just forget about this and go watch the next game. It'll be a lot better.
All right, man. Thanks for coming up.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. We're going to go to Christian next. Thanks for coming back. What's up, buddy? 808, you there? He hit the mute button on himself. Come on now. Give him a second there. Let's see if he can figure out the app. Is it going to work for you?
What about now?
There we go. Sometimes it gets weird when you flip between.
I think that was Jason Kidd's fault. He's blaming my phone, you know. Listen, man, this is your fault. You know, you said Shea was going to go off, and look what he did.
That is a good basketball player, though. Like, I get that people worry about the injury stuff, but I just can't help but think it's much more of the Thunder than it is him being injury prone. It's like they're like, "Wow, yeah, you have a boo-boo, you're out for now."
That and the way they've just been coddling the injuries, at least, like, the whole injury prone thing, like, when it comes to him, I think it's a little bit overblown. But did they overlook their opponent again?
No, I really don't think so. I think that the physicality, there were 6 offensive fouls called in the first 14 minutes on the Mavericks. A couple of them reasonable calls, a couple of them Ed Malloy specials. And that sort of changed the flow. Like, the Mavericks kind of rely on momentum in elements, and I think that really changed the game.
Well, changing the game was Reggie Bullock playing 30-plus minutes as well, and Josh Green playing, well, I think he played, half of that?
Yeah, I mean, I get that, where it's like, because I certainly want more Josh Green minutes, too, and he's being effective. I also don't hate the Reggie Bullock shots. I mean, the thing about Bullock is that we've seen he has 10 years of data to this point to where, and it's not 10 years, but it's enough, where he shoots the ball like crap the first portion of the year. So does Dorian Finney-Smith. I mean, Dorian shot 33% from the three-point line, 33% from the field. Bullock only got 5 total looks. I mean, the him being a negative 20 stands out like, and look at negative 25. Those things is just brutal put together. So I do understand that feeling, though, because I thought Josh Green should have stayed in. This being a robot to the rotations where it's like, oh, we got to put Luka back in. Well, why? You're up 15 points. What are you doing?
Check the chat. Jeremy said, can we pretend Bullock is hurt until January? That is nuts.
Well, he still shot 40% from the three-point line, and he was 2 of 5. It's just he didn't shoot enough. So if like you're out, it's the same. It's a very similar criticism to what I have of Josh Green, where if you're going to be on the floor, you need to be doing stuff.
Yeah, I agree. The quote that Jason had about Christian Wood, honestly, it wouldn't be that bad if, a reporter actually asked the question, but he was hunting for it, which makes it like it's really weird behavior, man.
Well, he is a peculiar person, is I think the way I'm going to phrase this, because I don't want to get in any trouble.
Hey, it's cool. Jason Mid. That's what everybody keeps saying, right?
Woo! Asen. See, back in the day, I was in the 6th grade when I moved here to Dallas, and I had this really killer poster. It had KG and Jason Kidd and a couple of other guys, like a Nike poster, and like that was back in the day. Whenever Jason Kidd he really couldn't shoot, so it was it was Asen Kidd because he had no J. And I just there's just a long history of Jason Kidd where big picture I love him, and in the moments like this where I'm just like, ugh, come on.
Yeah, man. It was definitely one of the uglier losses that I've seen in a while. But if you look around the league today, if you want to put on the optimist lens, there was only one game today that wasn't really ugly loss / dramatic ending. So you take that what you can.
That's true. That's true. The Mavericks are 12th in the West though at the moment, so that's
that's laid at the bottom of the barrel. But hey, the Magic tomorrow, and take on the Rookie of the Year already.
We'll see. I'm looking forward to that game. Plus, it has the delightful 6:30 start time. So we'll be back.
Hey, I like it, man. You have a good night.
You too. All right. Nobody's going to listen to this podcast, but that's okay. But Jonas, what's up? How we doing?
Hey, what's going on, Kirk?
It's late. But tell me what you're thinking.
Yeah. I don't know if J Kidd was angry tonight or frustrated, or I know my man just spoke about it on the previous speaker, but you don't just call out a guy like that after giving him his first opportunity of the season late in the game. It's it's not a good work environment. I know none of us want to work in that environment. I know players are different, but damn, I would be pissed if I was.
Well, and I bet he will be, because he's been a pretty good soldier, I think. And I don't know if that was fair.
Yeah, I don't think it was fair at all. I think that J Kidd he seems like insecure. Like you said, he was hunting for that comment. And I don't know why does he care? Why does he care what the media asks him? If he's truly got this plan for this team, it seems to me like he's starting to realize that you talked with Tim Cato about, what control he has in the front office. It seems to me like damn, why did I sign JaVale? I made the wrong decisions this offseason.
Yeah. I spoke about this in the post-game podcast that's been up for about an hour now. When he was with the Bucks and is going into his second year, he insisted that they, I did this in the podcast too. He insisted that they sign somebody who was out of the rotation within 4 or 5 weeks to a 4-year deal. And he's stubborn like this. He's also insecurity drives greatness. I really do believe that to a degree. It's a competitive trait. It's also what makes him a little bit of a lunatic. Jason Kidd drove Lawrence Frank out of the coaching staff when he was with the Nets up into the front office. Lawrence Frank is a well-regarded front office and coach, front office guy and coach. And you read the Mirror and Fader book, there's a lot of stuff that Kidd did that everybody told me I needed to shut the hell up about. And these things happen when things get funky. My assumption was always going to be Spencer Dinwiddie be the weird one, because Spencer Dinwiddie just gives off the shit that comes out of that guy's mouth is so hilarious at times. Where it's I figured he'd be the one that first would have the weird post game comments. I cannot believe it's Jason Kidd. Really can't. It's going to be. They're lucky they have another game tomorrow. Otherwise, this is all we would be talking about.
I totally agree. Spencer Dinwiddie I was expecting that to be a train wreck when we got him, but pleasantly surprised with his performances. But the last thing I got is I think we're just going to have to get used to this volatility. I think I've heard like a bunch of people have been calling Jalen Brunson the rock that the Knicks needed. I think he provided that stability for us that we didn't realize what he was doing the whole time, right? He's not going to be in the stats. We're not going to realize the contributions he's making, but we're realizing it now that he's gone. And I think the Mavs are going to have a lot of up and downs this season, and it's going to be evident by that. Or, I mean, I guess unless they can find a way to bring another guard in here.
Yeah, I think that's true. Thanks so much for waiting, all right?
Thanks, Kirk. Have a good night.
You too. All right, last but not least, we have, Aaron. Aaron dropped off. My bad, man. Well, thanks so much for hanging out. We'll be back at this shortly. Don't know if this will be one of our most listened to podcasts, but that's just the nature of the beast sometimes. Can't win them all, I guess, but I hope you guys feel a little better after hanging out and talking it out, and we'll be back shortly with the Dallas Mavericks playing the Orlando Magic. Come to Mavs Moneyball because my staff is riled up. We're going to see what all people decide they want to write, and we will talk soon. Everybody be good.